Welcome to OK Boomer. You're about to enjoy part 2 of Tears and Cheers, Poignant Moments in Wauconda High School Wrestling.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer.
During the 30 years of my coaching wrestling at Wauconda High School, quite a few poignant moments occurred. We've covered a number of those moments in part 1 of WHS Tears and Cheers, and we'll do the same here in part 2. Helping me out are 3 of the gentlemen who coached with me over those decades. There's a full introduction of them in part 1. In this episode, Tim Rennels, Todd Costa, and Kurt Rohlwing will once again continue to help me recall moments that still stand out for us, moments that help define character and mold young boys into men. We pick up with Kurt Rohlwing talking about his perspective as a coach who worked with athletes in the middle school and the high school, so that he was able to watch them grow through all of those years.
Okay, Boomer.
I had the opportunity to watch a group of young men go from, either 6th through 8th graders all the way through sophomore through seniors, watching them grow, watching them change. And, I know that TR did that for a long time. And watching, and watching awkward, weird, smelly middle schoolers turn into athletic, stand-up
descriptive
varsity athletes that went on to do great things. And, I know it's something that was just mentioned, but as an educator, my wife always laughs that we can't go out with me running into somebody I know.
Yeah.
Somebody I coached, somebody I taught, somebody who taught with me. But my favorite is when I run into my old students and athletes and seeing them now as adults that have jobs and kids. And to me, that's really the value of what we do.
Absolutely.
Right? Maybe we'll never coach a million state champs, but we turn awkward, weird young people into successful adults that have good, happy lives. And so that's the thing that I always want to do, regardless of what I'm doing in the job. So
yeah, whether it's in the athletic arena or whether it's in the classroom, that's their job. And that's just as important as winning any regional or sectional or state championship.
Yep, it absolutely is. So I apologize, guys. I got to go see my family. I haven't seen them much this week.
Yeah, family first, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I loved catching up with you guys, and let's do it again soon.
Definitely, boss. Go Knights.
Go Knights.
I wouldn't zoom yourself out. Tim, you heard the recording in progress, because guess who forgot to push the damn button. So can I ask you to tell the Perry Tatula story again?
Sure.
Damn it.
I was just going to say how proud I am in that rolling kid. Tatulis. Okay, we're going back. There's a connection there, too, to my previous story with girls wrestling, which really seems to be, over my career, I went from the first I'd ever seen, and it was unheard of, to actually a couple young ladies that went on to become state champions there in 2019. So this was probably the first successful girl wrestler and the first girl wrestler, in my knowledge, that was wrestling at a varsity level for Libertyville, which is a very good school. And we had a home tournament, and this girl, to my knowledge, won the first varsity tournament of a girl in Illinois, let alone the United States. And she beat Perry Tatulis to do it. Well, he was crestfallen, to say the most, and I could tell by his demeanor as he headed off to the locker room that he needed some intervention. So I went in, and he was throwing a fit, and I had to talk him down. And we spent some time talking about it, and I tried to point out what we've all come to realize, that, on the mat, it's not boy or girl. It's talent, it's what you know, it's what you can do. And I'm glad the girls have their own wrestling now so they can stop beating up on our boys. But Harry later sent me what I really appreciate. It was nearly 30 years later, so only a couple years ago, I got a messenger long-winded note telling me how much that moment meant to him. Not only that it kept him out for wrestling, but that it helped him face other challenges in life and even helped him as a father later on. So I'll tell you, that's the best pension plan I could ever have from teaching. That's for sure.
Yeah, very gratifying. Very gratifying. As coaches, we all made such significant impacts on our wrestlers. And again, 30 years later, wow, that's powerful. I had a similar letter that I'm going to share with you from Bob Burdick. He was the captain of our team. What, late 80s, Tim? Oh no, I know when he graduated in 1987.
Yeah.
He wrote this in 2001. So 14 years later, he writes me, "Dear Mr. Nance, this is a letter from your old friend Bob Burdick. I was traveling on a business trip and began reminiscing. I was thinking of how dramatically different my life is now from how I imagined it would be when I was growing up. I was thinking back about an old friend and who probably doesn't realize that his advice and mentoring helped change my life forever. I felt it was important for me to drop a note to this friend, tell him how much I appreciate his help. I imagine that you and all other teachers and coaches must wonder if your efforts as a teacher make a difference in the lives of your students. I'm writing to tell you that you helped make a difference in mine. I grew up in an extremely poor home, had abusive parents, and life at home most days was a living hell. It was tough growing up afraid of going home. I embraced my friends, sports, and social relationships through the tough times, which helped me get by. I also looked for and relied on mentors to give me direction in life. You don't know this, but you were the one that I looked up to most times. You treated me as a young adult and not a child. You always spoke frankly with me, showing respect only after I'd earned it. Your guidance as a coach, teacher, and friend helped develop parameters in life that I still live by today. To you, the extra effort that you showed me might have seemed minuscule, but to me, it was all the difference in the world. I thank you. I'm 31 years old. I'm a regional sales manager for a large company, Steel. I've been extremely successful both professionally and personally. I've been happily married for almost 7 years now. We purchased a substantial home in a great neighborhood where we have a wonderful circle of friends both personally and professionally. You could say I'm living the American dream. I would never have believed 12 years ago that life for me could be this good. I remember you saying once, with honesty, hard work, and positive attitude, there will be reward. I lived my life by those words, and as you said, I've seen reward. In closing, I want you to know that you've made a difference in my life, and I thank you for being there. I'll address you as Mr. Nance, as a respect that you've earned and deserve. I hope all is well with you. If you're ever wondering what all of your hard work and dedication is for, just remember, as a teacher, mentor, and friend, your efforts have and always will make a difference. Your friend, Bob Burdick, class of 1987. And that's a letter that wrestlers and students have written over and over again in their mind, but haven't sent. TR and I are fortunate enough to actually receive that in person to substantiate, to validate why we spent all those hours and all that time and all that energy into what was often a very frustrating profession. So I thank Bob for that letter, and Peter Tatulis for that letter, or is it Perry?
Very.
Thank you, Perry Tatulis, for those letters, and for the other people that have stopped by. And I know, Todd, that you've got stopped in grocery stores and whatnot, and people have said thank you and acknowledged the efforts that we've put forth in transforming young people's lives.
Yeah, not for nothing, but I do avoid certain stores because I was going in for a thing of milk. I don't need to be there for a half hour. And if I go into that Wauconda Jewel, I run into 2 or 3 people I know that turns into an hour and a half. But I do run into people who said stuff, yes.
And I think this letter should be a warning or a heads up to other teachers who are listening to this podcast, including my daughter. Man, we don't know what's going on at home. When he wrote that letter to talk about his home life, I'm like, holy crap, I had no idea. Here was a good-looking kid who was popular, successful in sports, and he was afraid of going home. Wow, that's powerful. So we never know what we might be able to do for our students. And I know there's been moments where I've failed in providing some of that support. But at least in this instance, I can realize at least I had one good day anyhow. All right, let's move on. Kurt talked about the satisfaction of watching wrestlers go from awkward middle schoolers to actual athletic young men. You guys might have your own favorite memories, but I know I took great satisfaction in watching people like John Schwartz and Ryan Eflin develop as a wrestler and into young men. I remember specifically John Schwartz, who may have had a above 500 wrestling record for us, but obviously not having a stellar success. But he was wrestling somebody who was much stronger than him. John beat him because John was in shape. John knew how to wrestle, and it was fun watching somebody who, if you just put them side by side, well, that kid ought to beat the crap out of John. That didn't happen, and that's because John put forth the effort, put forth the commitment, and went out and won that match. I was very proud of him and our program for giving him the opportunity to do and have the success that he did have. Ryan Eflin was another one that, Todd, you were intricate in coaching. I just remember what he looked like as a freshman and what he looked like as a senior. It was different. He actually had a chest as a senior. And that was partly because of Coach Burton's influence on weight training. I mean, he looked like an athlete. The transformation from freshman to senior year, it was remarkable. He should have been able to look in the mirror and have confidence and say, hey, my hard work paid off. I could see it right there in the mirror. So it's fun watching. And again, these guys weren't state champions. They weren't probably even regional champions, but they had their victories and they had their success in different ways than what you can measure in a win-loss record.
Yeah, definitely. I remember Ryan, you're talking about that positive attitude. I don't remember exactly if he'd won a match or if he was just doing the lineup, but I remember him shaking someone's hand and he came through and he was giving every guy in the team high fives. And he had that big smile and a lot of energy. And I remember just a positive kid and a great kid to coach, even though we saw him progress as an athlete and stuff, we know he won the state champion, but he's definitely a kid who definitely came along and got a lot better as a person and as an athlete. So it is fun to watch those kids transform into, scrawny freshmen into, young men.
It's all about going from point A to point B.
Yes, it is.
Jake Konauer is another wrestler like that. Todd, you had a memory of him winning a big match.
Yeah, it was, we were wrestling Warren. We always wrestled them first match every year, one of the first meets, and we usually got destroyed. And I just happened to come through 1 year, and we had a really good squad. And it came all the way down to Jake. There's 2 matches left. There's Jake and the guy just before him. And Jake is moving up in weight class. And I'm thinking, as long as they don't get pinned, they don't even have to win. If they don't get pinned, we're going to win this meet. And the guy before him is winning the whole match. And then all of a sudden, 25 seconds left, gets thrown and pinned. And I almost threw the chair across the mat. Now Jake's got to win. And we're sitting on the bench, but I'm all the way on the corner. And the other coach is on the corner. And he was a real smug guy. And he was real cocky. And Jake takes his warm-ups off. And Jake is standing right next to me. And Jake wasn't huge, but he was a good, thick kid. And this kid was a little bit bigger. And the coach and this kid look at Jake and they start laughing. And the coach says, pin this kid, win this meet, and we're going home. And I look at Jake and I just, the cockiness and arrogance came out of me. I said, this guy's got no idea you're my ace. And Jake went out there, and I just remember it was a close match. And in the third period, Jake really pulled through, and he ended up winning by several points. But I mean, it's like you said, you want to act like you've been there before. So I didn't want to be too smug. But man, I was acting like and inside I was like I won the Olympics. I wanted to run around the mat with my hands raised, but I was gracious. I was like, all right, we won. But yeah, it was just a big moment, and I just remember Jake with that little smile on his face too when I said that, and I was glad to see that smile come out of him just before he stepped out there, because then I kind of knew. I was like, he's got this.
See, Coach, that's the magic of coaching there. You knew the right thing to say, the right button to push to let him go out there at that moment. So, those are the magic tricks of coaching.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was, I told him that you're my ace, buddy. You got this, and he did. It was just a great feeling to watch him win that meet. That match ended.
Sometimes karma comes through with instant gratification. Nice.
Yes, it does.
And now for these brief messages. Hey, where's a guy to get his hair cut around here? You know, without all the posters of debonair urbanites with slicked-up doos. I'll tell you where, Ben's Barbershop in Morrison. In his friendly and professional shop, you'll walk out looking good at a reasonable price, and you could talk baseball and other manly stuff. Look up Ben on Facebook, Ben's Barbershop. You can make an appointment right there to take care of that mop on your head. And even with a great haircut from Ben, your head still might be spinning with all the things you have to remember. And that's why you want to regularly check out AroundPtown.com. It'll remind you of when sports physicals are happening, or when football practice begins, or when Mitchell's melons are ripe. All the important stuff you'll need. Find it on AroundPtown.com.
So we've talked about a lot of situations where we've been able to have positive impacts, where we've been able to rescue, for a lack of a better word, kids, pull them from the depths of their despair or push them to heights that maybe they didn't think they could match. But not all kids can be rescued. Not all kids can be saved. And TR experienced a moment on the wrestling mat in a practice situation that no parent, no coach, no teacher should ever have to experience, but you did, Tim. I mean, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can. I wasn't looking forward to it. I'm shaking a little bit now, but I'll always tell the story to honor Tyler Green. It was 1989, and I had been coaching for a couple years there at the middle school, and the returning group, I know there was a Theo in the room, but Tyler was returning and had been a starter for me at like 65 pounds the year before, a slight kid with great spirit. And his brother Jeremy was a wrestler also. So they came in to start the season in 89, and neither one had their physicals on the first day. So I had to sit them down. And the next day they came in, and first thing I did was ask them if they had their physicals. And Tyler was like, I have mine. And Jeremy was like, I don't have mine yet, coach. I said, well, Jeremy, you're going to have to watch. Okay. So he sat to the side. Well, we practiced in the old cafeteria there at the middle school, and about the middle of the room, and just finished practice. I was standing over Tyler and his partner. We were drilling something, little wrestling, rolling around. And I blew the whistle to stop, and it was actually ending practice. And Tyler, right at my feet, kind of laid back on the mat and stretched his arms out, and it was like a big yawn. And took a moment before I realized that he was in distress. And so I went right on it. I do regret that at that time, our CPR training was different. Mouth to mouth was a part of the process. And he aspirated, and fortunate for us, Mr. Theo was a paramedic, and he had called the station right away, and they were just basically 2 blocks away. So literally they were there in less than 2 minutes to take over from me. But Tyler had a heart condition. He was aware of it. His family was aware of it. He chose to live life instead of to hide from it. And could have been going up the stairs or in PE that day, but it was at the end of my practice. So I guess the growth experience for me was going back the next day, because I had to face a room of young men that were probably feeling worse than I was. And that was a big challenge and a big moment of growth for me. So we started the Tyler Green Award and honored him for years after, as long as I was the middle school coach. And then if I could throw in my next story, because it ties right in, it's about the Tyler Green Award winner. Well, I had finished up with the middle school. If you remember, the seasons were whacked, Tom. I think we overlapped with high school and middle school.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I wanted to totally commit to the high school. So I resigned and left it to Kurt Rohlwing for the middle school. And apparently the plaque got lost somewhere along the way, the Tyler Green Award. And then for the good part of 30 plus years, I carried this one little brass placard with the engraving on it. Was the year 1989, so it would have been our first Tyler Green Award winner. And it was, the name was Andy Close. And Andy, I think it was Andrew at that time, Andy was a wrestler of mine, really good kid, and he went on to go to McHenry. So we didn't know much of Andy or Andy's career, but come full circle, as I announced the kids club tournament at Wauconda, he came to the table and approached me and was now a youth coach. He had a couple kids that were out there, little ones, and he was enthusiastic and he was at it. So I'd see him there over the course of the next couple of years. And I remembered that plaque that I had it. So I finally found it. And then one year I told him that I wanted to talk to him and his entire team before the tournament started. So just before the national anthem, they all came over and I had a little impromptu award ceremony that gave him his Tyler Green. And then once again, I explained what it meant that Tyler Green, it wasn't about talent. It was just about love of the sport. Not that he willingly gave his life for wrestling, but he did. And I think he died happy because it meant so much to him to be on the mat. So it's that spirit that the award was given, and the award came late to Andy Close, but I was able to give it to him then. And then last winter, take the picture with him as we both reffed a tournament. And it was great to see him as a man and totally in control of the action.
And continuing to give back to the sport of wrestling.
That's it. That the bottom line is community, that, we're passing people on the wrestling road and we see them later down the line and we know them. We shared something.
Well played, Coach, to get him that Tyler Green Award there in front of his team. Well played. Very nice.
Thank you.
And we've seen our influence on people as coaches, because we know that because they went on and gave to wrestling. We've had a number of wrestlers become wrestling coaches. We just had two of them are our guests. Kurt, who had to depart early, Todd, who's still with us, became wrestling coaches. Brandon Harwell, Randy Brill, Jason Dawn, Scott Vasicek, Chris Proska, current WHS football coach, David Lang, John Champion. Those are a list of coaches that I'm aware of. And we got
Scott
some
Carlson.
Thank you,
I'll fill
Scott.
that out. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Scott Carlson. And others I'm sure that we've missed. So if anybody wants to drop me an email and fill in those blanks for me, I'd appreciate that. And we can give you some recognition in a later episode. Currently, we have former wrestlers that are still coaching. Mark Stave, very successful with at Lakes High School. He had a lot of success, female state champion last year.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Smith is a head coach in Wisconsin. I don't know what high school. I've forgotten. I think Yale Garcia is still working with the middle school.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Frankie Malilla, I think, coached on the high school level last year.
Yes, he did.
And Devin Tortorisi he has his own kids club that seems to be very successful. He's been doing this for several years.
Team Tortorisi, yes.
Yes. And like I said, there's probably others that I've missed, that I have forgotten. But we'd love to hear from anybody and any of them that want to share stories with us. That'd be fantastic. I'll share a quick episode or moment I had with Devin Tortorisi that Todd was witness to, so he might want to chime in on it. But Devin was a very talented wrestler. Sometimes gave us some fits and starts and some headaches. And he qualifies for state. And it might have been the second round of wrestling. Todd, you and Bob Kennison were coaching him, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. I'd given you guys charge of coaching him. Well, Andy and I dealt with Nate Magira. And so I'm watching Devin wrestle this match, and he's not wrestling well. He's not wrestling like he should. I'm way up in the stands saying, this kid's not shooting. He's not being aggressive. He's not acting like this could be the last match of his career. Well, he won it. not in very convincing fashion, and not like I felt he should have, and took the opportunity after that match to to have him come out into the concourse area of Assembly Hall. It's called something else now. And I brought Todd and Andy Burton out there to witness it because I had very calmly and deliberately decided I'm going to chew on this kid. And I thought I chewed on him pretty hard. And I made a point that he was not doing what we had set up for a game plan. He wasn't adhering to the style of wrestling that we were committed to, and basically told him he was throwing away what could be a very good showing here down at State. And then I walked away, and I left, left you and Andy to pick up the pieces on that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he went down there. Like you said, Devin was always, I always felt he was a top tier wrestler, but he didn't always wrestle top tier, he'd have real sluggish matches at times, throughout his career that I thought he could win, but he had other matches that were awesome. So, but he went downstate. I remember, just being down there watching him, and I remember those last couple of matches was really being fired up and beating a couple of kids that were really tough, getting that third place. And, I thought he had a real spirited effort after that too. I mean, he's a great kid and he worked hard, and yeah, he's one of my favorite guys to coach, just sitting there watching. When he was on, and he was really on that day. And I mean, he was on 99% of the time, but
right.
I remember downstate, I thought he really wrestled to the best of, he put it all together and he really came away with that state medal. And, I thought it did help him a lot, talking to him, telling him that, you expect more out of him. And that's another point too, because when you're coaching, you have to expect something out of your guys. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything out of them. If you don't have standards, they're never going to reach anything. And you expected more out of him, and you didn't think he was giving it to you, and you let him know it. And I thought he really raised his level and came away with that third place medal, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, well, he wasn't giving it to himself, giving himself a fair shot to all that work and all that effort. But he went on from there, and he had a very successful career at the Wisconsin University. Was it Platteville or Whitewater, wasn't it?
Whitewater.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch him do some of his stuff on Facebook where he's talking to the team and or some of the things he's posted. I find what he's posted and what he has said to his kids to be spot on, to be encouraging, to be positive, to be challenging. I was like, he's speaking like a very mature, seasoned coach. I'm very pleased with the messages that he's sending out to his team via social media. Been fun to watch.
And as an update, I know I believe he left the shoes on the mat, but he got a couple wins in the U.S. team trials this last month.
Yeah, he put the shoes back on. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. That shows some courage. I love that. Fascinating. So I think it's about time for you to get back on mat, TR.
Odd. No, I watched some old guys on YouTube. That was funny.
So we've had wrestlers that go on to I'm just now getting a visual of what those videos must look like. We've had wrestlers that have gone on to have successful careers as coaches, and they've also had successful careers doing other things. Of note is Brian Shue, who is the leader of a national organization dealing with surf therapy. And I've done a podcast with him, and it's simply fascinating. And prior to that, he was a leader at the Nestle company, making buku bucks, in charge of thousands of people, handling budgets of millions of dollars. Just fascinating what he's been able to do. And part of his story is also the fact that he had learning disability that he had to overcome. Jason Dawn just received a promotion at the Wauconda Fire Department. I want to say like he's assistant head
lieutenant or something, even higher.
Yeah. Continuing to grow and lead. Peter Jablonski has fascinated me with his videos on Facebook with the restaurants that he's dealing with. He's an entrepreneur and doing a great job of marketing. And Tim, you've got some of your paintings hanging in one of his shops.
Yeah, he's got a coffee shop up in Fox Lake and bought the Bonner Road Inn here in Wauconda.
Excellent. Also of note is Devin Parrish, who is currently a professional boxer, undefeated. He's only had 5 matches so far, but he's also had a long, successful amateur career. So he's still putting it out there and making the sacrifice, and not on the mat, but in a ring, throwing punches and taking punches. And he just looks he looks good doing it, and we wish him the best of luck.
He looks dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with him. The guy that just left our Zoom meeting here, Kurt Rohlwing, is superintendent of a very large district, Caneland. Very proud of the work that he had done. He was an excellent student in school and was willing to work hard on the wrestling mat and work hard with his studies, and is now leading thousands of kids in the educational process. We're very proud of his success and wish him well as he continues on. I wish he was still here. They might want to ask him a couple of pointed educational questions, but that'll be perhaps for another date. I'm adding this information right here after the fact, after the original interview. Todd called me back after we had all said our goodbyes and say, hey, you know what? We forgot one wrestler who has made some interesting achievements, and his name is Janae Pequeno. Janae wrestled for us a couple of years and has gone on to be a fantastic lawyer. Here's several awards that he has recently won. Janae's hard work and dedication has led to him being recognized in 2023 and 2024 as an Illinois super lawyer for family law. And being recognized as an Illinois super lawyer, Janae is established as a top 5% attorney in the state of Illinois. Other awards for Janae include being acknowledged as top 10 best attorneys in exceptional and outstanding client service in Illinois, published by the American Institute of Family Law Attorneys. He's also noted as a top 40 family lawyer under 40 in Illinois by the American Society of Legal Advocates. So there's your plug and your shout out, Janae. Fantastic work. Anybody who needs help in family law, contact Janae Pequeno. And let me apologize here for leaving out many other wrestlers, I'm sure, who have also made significant contributions to life after their wrestling career. And I apologize for not knowing, having lost contact with you. If you want to reach out to us to let us know how you're doing, we'd be glad to hear from you and celebrate those successes. What else, gentlemen? We've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hope...
I don't know, speaking of, I'll go back a step, the Pangrazios. Tom, I don't know if this was shared with you, and I don't remember who shared it with me, whether it was Jack, our fearless leader, or if it came from the district. I somehow think Tom Barbini shared it with me, but Mrs. Pangrazio wrote a very poignant letter about you and I and the wrestling program in general and the effect it had on her boys. And we, as we spoke earlier, both boys, such upbeat individuals that they can pursue a sport they have no chance to succeed in. And it gave them what I call the G gene, that grappling gene that Kurt spoke about, that helps us get through life later when things really get tough.
Yeah. If you've survived a season or more of wrestling, you can survive a lot of things. What's Gable's famous quote? Once you become a wrestler, everything else is easy. A lot of truth to that. And Todd, I know in your own personal life, you've dealt with some challenges, and you're still dealing with some challenges. And I know the fact that you faced adversity as a wrestler in high school and in college, that's led you to deal with some of those challenges real well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not that I would ever do it, but I had some real challenges at work. I had one boss who loved me, and he's ready to promote me to a really high position, and then he gets fired, and the next boss comes in and hates me. And he literally has me doing a job that you could have someone coming off the street to do, even though I can do so much more. And I had a moment where he came after me with the finger in my face, and I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to shoot my double on him, and I'm smart enough to know not to do it, but man, it did cross my mind for half a second. You know, and it was funny though, because I went right back at him, you know, with something in wrestling. If someone gives you a shot, you go right back at him. And I'm like, if I'm getting fired, it's fine. And I went back at him and I argued with him, and I still don't like this guy. And it's interesting. I have a lot of bosses I talk to, and that's one guy I never want to see again. And I remember like after I went back after him, I was perfectly calm afterward. I settled down, and I remember his hands were shaking. I don't think he expected that. But you know, I'm back on track now at work, and they got me doing a really good, my job's back, and it seems like I'm going in the right direction and things are going good, you know, and it's just interesting how, you know, one person can really change things at work for you.
Okay, Boomer.
And that's where our recorded bit of conversation ends, rather abruptly. We had some technical difficulties in getting our conversation recorded, and our difficulties, I should say my difficulties, continued right up to the end. But we got the majority of what we wanted to share out to our listeners. I want to thank Tim, Todd, and Kurt for taking the time to bring those memories alive. And I want to thank them for what they did for the athletes that had the courage to step upon a wrestling mat, to put themselves in the line of fire, to risk failure and heartbreak, to take advantage of what the sport of wrestling had to offer, an opportunity to be a better man. I wish I could say that happened all the time with every athlete. It didn't. And I know that there were times when I failed as a coach, and for that, I apologize. I made plenty of mistakes as a teacher and a coach, and I'm grateful that I had people like Tim, Todd, and Kurt, and others who helped me grow from those mistakes and be a better coach and person. And thank you to the wrestlers who gave us the opportunity to share with them a pivotal part of their journey in life. Work hard, think big.
Okay, Boomer.
Shut up. And kids, don't forget to be checking in with AroundPtown.com. It's got all the news that you can use. Stay hip, stay classy with AroundPtown.com. And for you fellas that want that hip and classy look, well, then you're going to want to get your butt to Ben's Barbershop chair. That's right, Ben's Barbershop. Look him up on Facebook.com. He's in Morrison. You make an appointment, you're going to love it. If you enjoyed listening to Boomer here, he'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to his podcast so you'd get notifications of when the next episode's coming up. Maybe leave a rating on a review. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe. That helps the podcast grow, and that makes the little fella feel so much better. And if you have any feedback for him, go ahead and contact him at ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Again, that's ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.